Hey, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Designers. In today's episode, we will be conversing with young designers and their career paths and questions on career. Today in Conversations with Designers. And in today's chat discussions, co-hosting or hosting today's discussion will be Stella. Hi, Stella.
Hi, Ellie. Thanks so much for having me and for having us and for inviting us to chat, hang out, and just talk about things that we all, as UX designers in the field, are going through as young, fresh designers. So, right now with me here, we have Kate and Cams. I'm not going to try and introduce you guys. You go ahead. Tell us about what you guys are doing and your origin story. Sorry, your UX origin story. So, Kate, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So I see Ellie flashing my LinkedIn profile. So yes, I'm Kate. So I'm an experienced designer at Globe. I wear many hats, but more generally, I'm an experienced designer. So how did I start my UX journey? So I've always known I am a creative. So I took up a creative course in college. So that's BFA Information Design in Ateneo. But I didn't really know which path to take. So I was just kind of trusting the process that I'll know what I want, like going through college. But initially, I really wanted to be a graphic designer or maybe someone from branding, like a branding creative. But then I kind of got sick of like doing graphic design. Then luckily I found UX and I joined this org called User Experience Society, and that's where things took off. And I'll stop there, but maybe we'll talk about that later. So there.
That's super awesome. That's super cool. I like the note you made on getting tired of doing graphics and wanting to push that further. So we'll for sure dive into that later. Cams, you're up. Tell us about yourself and your UX origin story.
Yeah, okay. So, hi everyone, I'm Camille, but you can call me Cams naman. So, a little bit about myself. I'm currently a third year in Ateneo, and I'm studying Management Information Systems. But on the side, I work with projects. I do freelancing currently, mainly because I realized that I really want more time for myself too, since I've been working full time from before. So, a little bit of the origin story that I have with UX and how I really came to be a UX designer was generally in my first year. I kind of just saw this pub on Facebook. I was like, oh, they have a really nice pub. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should try and join this organization. And this turned out to be like a big chunk of my college life, which is UX society. But a lot more about that later on in the discussion. But yeah, that's basically my origin story.
That's super cool. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I love how you also mentioned that you are now taking time to focus on yourself and to grow as a designer by doing different freelance projects. So we'll definitely dive further into that later, just like what I said with Kate. But you guys both
Yeah.
mentioned kasi the importance of this particular organization when you guys were in university. So let's talk a bit about that and your experience in college and how that kind of wove together with this organization, what you guys did for them. Guys, feel free. Like anyone can start us off, but let's talk about that.
Oh, I'd like to hear Cams like describe what the org is like right now because I've already graduated and yeah, go ahead. Let's see if our vision still
Guys, are you
aligns.
still in university? You're still in university.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
am. I am.
Cams is still in
And
university. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That is so
yeah.
cool. Let's hear about it. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. So I'm actually still part of UX Society. I'm the executive vice president currently. So I'm in my third year now. And basically UX Soc has been growing really fast, amazingly fast. And it's been up for our fifth year. It's our fifth year now. And it's crazy how this just started out a couple of years ago. I really saw it like, I mean, I wasn't there when it really just started in day one, but I really did see how it was a small org and it growing really fast, really vastly. and having this good reputation as an org, which makes me feel so proud about it as well. I feel like UX Society is really a good hub for those who really want to transition, those who want to pursue a career, or even just those who are still starting out and trying to learn which best path they would want to be in. Because personally, for me, when I came into the org, I really didn't know anything about UX. Like the only thing that made me interested in the org at that time was because I thought it had like good branding. I thought it had like good pubs, right? But little did I know that UX design and the industry in itself, that was something that I would end up loving even just in my first year of UX Society. What I feel like UX Society offers, it stands out, is really, it focuses on mentorship. It focuses on um, having this community that really helps you from end to end, from the start down to the career path that you're going for, and really giving you a direction that you can see. I really felt this because Kate was one of my mentors talaga when I was like in my first year when I was trying to discover like what I was passionate about. So I think Kate can also share a bit more about how that was as a mentor too.
Yeah, I'm actually so proud of Cams because like I've seen her grow from like someone who doesn't know about UX at all, but now she's doing so many things related to UX. And I'd like to add on what Cam said about UX Talk and what really UX Talk's advocacy is to evangelize design, like um, advocate for user-centered design in the community. And I feel like the org has always been like a good place to discover yourself. And I really like our campaign when I was still an officer there, and like we were saying like unleash the inner designer in you. So like what we really meant, like everyone is a designer, and you just have to unleash it. Like you don't know that it's there, but everyone really is a designer. And I think it's a lie when people say that they aren't like creative. It's something that can definitely learn. Like some it's innate in some people, but that shouldn't stop like anyone from learning what UX really is. So there I was when I was still there, the org was still at its infancy. And I agree with Cam. So even back then, like we had a really good mentorship culture, and it's a community where the mentors really care about the growth of their juniors. So I'm glad that it still carries on until today, and I look forward to the amazing growth of UXO.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
I think I did hear from someone that the alumni as well is also very hands-on. There's that inner network of people starting off in the industry. Given that UX also is emerging in the Philippines, no, like knowing that you guys have that base, I think is so solid. You guys mentioned a bit. Sorry, I'm gonna pivot into that conversation about mentorships, right, and about how that's so important. So maybe you can tell us a bit about the mentorship program and how that helped you shape you guys as practitioners or professionals now, and you comes as a freelancer. So how did that at the time, no, with UXOC, like how did that help you guys get to where you are right now?
Okay,
Okay.
I can go first. So like my first real mentorship experience again was in the org, and that happened because I took a step forward. Like when I said that oh I don't really like graphic design anymore. So let's try UX. So I applied as a junior product designer in the org, and I was mentored by the people who are more tenured, who are more tenured in the org. And it was just nice um, to hear like the wisdom and knowledge that people already had, despite being people in college, and they've already had internship experience. And that's just inspiring to see. um, what I really learned during the mentorship is like the frameworks that they have. They really encourage you to join these workshops. The officers are really hands on with you. Like they really sit down with you and teach you things. And what's good about the org as well was that they give you projects to work on because you wouldn't really learn if you don't apply it. So that was like the great aspect of the org that I really love, that you get to apply your work because there's just like an endless amount of projects that you can work with, and you have many opportunities to prove yourself.
Wow, thanks so much for sharing that. The maturity, I think, of this particular society. I mean, it's something that I've constantly heard about from a lot of young practitioners or those who are just like coming out of university now, particularly from Ateneo. So that's really awesome to hear. Cams, anything you want to add to that? Anything you're thinking of?
Yeah. I think Kate was able to cover a lot of it already, but I guess I can speak more about how just like generally the mentorship has really grown into something that's not centered that's not like only restricted to kind of adding the aesthetics of design, right, in general. I mean, we've been mentoring people who aren't really who they believe aren't really artistic in a way, and those who really didn't think that they would go into this kind of in the UX, like not just in UX design, but like in the entirety of UX, um even in the way that they would handle businesses, or even in the way that they would develop things, right? So I feel like it has really gone largely to that, because I think it is also kind of our mission to really expand the reach of this org. Not just because at the start this was really centered towards like tech orgs in general, right? But UX is everywhere. UX is around us talaga. So I think being able to kind of create this campaign, we were able to create this campaign called Experience Better, where it really doesn't center just on designers, right? But it actually centers on understanding what UX is in the whole world, even in like industrial products, normal products that we have here. Um, I remember we had this kind of this campaign where the website was supposed to be like a really really bad UX.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then it was like something that could be better, more accessible, more usable for the user. So it's like one of the ways that we were able to move it. And as a result of it, we found we got like better demographics. I mean, not even better, but like we had the more diverse demographics with the people who joined in the org. We had like different people from like English lit, from like mathematics. It was crazy how diverse the pool was for the org then, and it has continuously been growing now. So I really felt that because personally for me when I started out, I had no idea what UX design is. I was kind of insecure with like even my graphic design skills. So really just going into it, it was amazing how I was received as, because a little bit of background, I was actually from a science high school and I had a thesis before, which is like an industrial design part, which is a bioengineering project. But I was able to share that with the team, and I was amazed how they really enjoyed it, and I felt like that was kind of the transition where I felt like, oh, this could be something that I could really pursue eventually, because it is related to that. It is related to something that I'm really passionate about, and it's something that I can translate. So like in that sense, I really wanted to push forward with that as I was in the org, that I wanted people to feel the same. Like it's something that they can pursue even if they're not really secure with like their design skills, right? So yeah.
No, thanks so much for sharing that. I love how you guys both mentioned, that yes, creativity can be innate in some people, but it's a skill, no, that can be taught, and it's a skill that can be practiced. And like what you said, knowing that there are people from other degrees like mathematics, and lit, like in the org, no, that's a super multidisciplinary approach to UX, which it should be. I think. I mean, I don't know what you guys, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that holistic approach to UX, I think, is super important. That's awesome. Thanks so much, you guys. Anything else you guys want to mention before we pop into the next section, or are we good? We're good.
Oh, I just want to add na I think it was like an unintended unintended like result of having like multiple disciplines in the orgs, that UX is not gate kept, at least in Ateneo. So I think that was a good aspect of it. And even if you're like Cam said, English lit, or like you're in psych, or actually in any field, you have a contribution. Like you have ambag in the UX field. So for example, you're in English lit, what you can contribute, copywriting. For example, in
Mhm.
psychology, what can you contribute? The human psyche, like your knowledge about human psyche, you know how the mind works, so you know how to like orchestrate things. So yeah, I think that just proves that UX is for anyone. Yeah,
That's such an interesting note. And I mean, that's why there are also so many career shifters. A lot of practitioners now know
I
are
agree.
career shifters who realize that there are certain skills in their current jobs or career paths that they can actually apply to UX. I think there was one that I spoke to who used to be a nurse actually and was going to pursue this medical field and parang realized that he had not wasted 4 years of his life studying nursing, but that was 4 years of empathy. So galang that you guys mentioned that. That's
Mm.
awesome. All right. So, given that we probably do have a lot of other younger designers watching right now or tuning into this particular stream, UX work, a big chunk of that is portfolio building, and I'm sure we all have experience in this as current practitioners. So maybe you guys can share some tips and tricks or things that you've learned that might help our readers or myself. So go ahead, someone start, take it off.
I think Kate can start. She has a really
Okay.
beautiful portfolio.
Okay. Okay. So I think the question that needs to be asked is, do you really need a portfolio, like when applying for jobs? So portfolio can be like two things. It can be a portfolio that's public, or it can be a portfolio that you just keep to yourself. So like the first thing that you do to start that portfolio is to really document everything that you do. So when you're like it's easy like to be immersed in your work and like just go with the flow and like just work and work and work and work. But I think it's good to like pause and think and like reflect on like what you did. Um, sorry, hold on.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with it. Stella, your audio.
Sorry,
I just realized
I was also
I'm so sorry about that. I had like my
sorry.
air going and
Sorry, that
Bye.
was embarrassing. But like anyway, as as I was saying, documentation is really important when doing your work, and like it's important to pause and like think about the design process that you just went through and what like you can improve on it. Because like I think part of like portfolio building is to include like the flaws or like the things that you did wrong or like the things that didn't really go well during that design process. And I think that also gives you more value like as a designer, because you you can catch those things, because not everything you do is perfect, and that's what really the essence of like UX is. That's why we go through that entire design thinking framework, right? So you test and you iterate, you test and you iterate, and it's good that you also present that in your portfolio. um Another thing, I think another controversial question that people ask when doing their portfolio is like, do you really need a website? Personally, I made a website for my portfolio, but that's because I wanted to impress my employers, like as a fresh grad back then. But like looking back now, um, did is my portfolio still worth it? For me, not really anymore, because I didn't really have like that content creation aspect in my portfolio. So like I don't have a blog that comes with it, or like I wasn't really updating it. So like the main intention of that portfolio was really to just show it to employers. And for me, at least for me in my experience, it wasn't that worth it, but I could make it worth it, like if I maybe put like a blogging aspect to it, or if like I updated it, like updated it constantly. So yeah, I guess that's why I I kind of got interested in content creation as well. So sorry, segue. So I have a YouTube channel, right? So like my goal for that channel was to really, share share something to the world about UX, because I don't think there's enough channels that show UX in like the local context. At least there's a lot like overseas, but in the local context, I don't think there's enough. And I think localization is very important. So I tried dabbling into that, and hopefully in the future I can show like how I can share like what you're discussing now, maybe portfolio building, advices in job interviews, anything about UX knowledge, basically. So there, it's also a way to give back to the community. But I'm digressing. But yeah, there. That's my experience in creating portfolios.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm definitely taking down my own notes as well, because I think the portfolio is such a it's I don't know, how do you say this? It's such a big part, right, of showing, like what you said, of showing your work, of
Mhm.
showing the mistakes, the iterations that you've made. But I love how you mentioned that it shouldn't be just about the pixel pushing, right, and showing that things look pretty and things look nice, but also showing the framework of design thinking, of showing, like, maybe you've made mistakes throughout the entire process, but you catch them. And I think that what you mentioned, Kate, I think that's super important. Cams, how about you? Do you have a current portfolio right now? As a student, no? I mean, as a student, what is that like? What's that process like for you?
Okay, maybe you can start off because I really loved when Kate said that. I think ultimately when you're creating your portfolio, it's really a lot of questions of what is this portfolio for? Like as with any UX concept, it would probably undertake, or like when you're conducting UX research, you'd always ask like, what is this for? How is this gonna be relevant, right? So related to that, I guess like it's been a while. I had my portfolio before, which was generally just like a PDF of some sort. But I think I was I utilized that like the latest was probably like 2019. It's been so long since I've updated it. But this is something that actually really realized because it's so ironic for me to be a freelancer and not really have this like portfolio and a website up, right? But for me, all of my clients that I've had or I've approached with was generally people who actually chatted me up, who connected with me, and I guess like ultimately the most important thing that I realized was it's really more about the connections and being able to build yourself and your name as a brand. It's not just in one thing. I feel like your portfolio has to be everything that you're you're offering. Like it should be in the social media, it should be with the people you're connecting with. I remember like one of my mentors, si Alexis naman, told me about how it's so important for you to brand yourself as a designer if you'd want people to really remember you as one, right? So he would scold us, like in the org, he would scold us if we put like memes up, which aren't like relevant to to designers or to yeah to anything that basically you really have to brand yourself as someone who eventually like people who you're connected with, your friends or the friends of your friends, acquaintances, will be able to remember na parang, oh, this person is actually a designer, this person is a UX designer, right? Exactly when they would need one. And I really took that into consideration. It's something that I still do today. If I were to add memes, it would be memes about design, be memes about designers. And I think like all the channels that I've been trying to do, like even on Instagram, on YouTube, these are generally I try to add more design tips. I try to add like more information, like not just in the sense that I want people to remember that I'm a designer, but also at the same time I'd want them to really kind of appreciate design more, appreciate art in general more, the industry, because that's something that's very not as appreciated, I would say, or it needs a lot of uplifting, especially in the country. But yeah, in terms of portfolio, I do really think that it's still important, especially when you're starting out. I did really start out with it because I feel like this is the way that people would really understand your design process. And I agree with Kate. It's not just in how good looking, for example, one mock-up is or one brand is or one illustration is, but it's more about how you approach these problems because they're people are interested in the way that you would interact with, or in the way that you would solve these problems. Because I feel like there are a lot of good designers already out there, and as a young designer, like, how could you compete with these people who have like crazy good portfolios, right? But I think it's really more about trying to find that fit with the employers or with the people that actually look into your portfolio, and how that actually fits with them, right? Because it's more a matter of being able to find the projects that will help you. It doesn't have to be like the craziest, the most amazing, the ones that have like the biggest budget, who which projects you'll have to go for. But actually, I feel like what you want the portfolio to resonate is to attract people who would help you have this like good experience as you're going through the ladders. People who understand that you're still starting out, people who understand that at the same time you can contribute something with the way that you present yourself. Yeah, so that's my take on it too.
No, that's a lot to unpack for sure. But a few points I just wanted to reiterate. I think that what you said about what you said about sorry, completely thrown off. Kate, same thing happened to me. Someone just knocked on my door right now and like shook all of my thoughts out of my head. No, sorry, Cams. What you mentioned about who, like, understanding who this portfolio is for, and you mentioned matching what you're presenting, having that understanding of the context, and trying to extract specific skill sets, things that you've learned that will show the employer or show who you're showing this portfolio to, the level that you can, the level of UX, level of work you can achieve. And I think that's super important. I mean, even me myself, like during the interview process, they asked me to walk through my portfolio. What were your key learnings from this specific project, etc. So I guess bridging that, you guys both mentioned that portfolios are very important in the beginning, like when you're trying to show other people or employers your skills, etc. I'm just going in a circle right now. But let's talk about the recruitment process and hiring, and I guess like how portfolios fit into that. Like, what was that experience for you, like, Kate? And I guess maybe Cams, you can talk about your experience of getting clients for your freelance work. So I guess we'll start with you, Kate, with the recruitment process.
Yeah, sure. As for me, I'll talk about like my most memorable recruitment experience. So like the most memorable interview was I had with Globe with my former boss here, Saina. But anyway, I think actually I had like a one-on-one with her. Like I asked her, why did you hire me? But what struck you? So I think during interviews we get asked like the most generic interview questions, like what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what is your design process like for designers? I think those are common questions. Okay, so let's get to that first. So I was already anticipating that those are were going to be asked, but like to avoid thinking on my feet, I already had this notion file of all my answers. It's not like I was rehearsing it, but like at least I all my answers were going to be consistent throughout all of the interviews, because that's like who I really am. So getting to the interview, I don't have to think that much anymore. So if there's anything that I need to add, like I wouldn't be too my thoughts wouldn't be too cluttered anymore. So it was helpful that I had that notion file of all those like FAQs, frequently asked questions during the interview. Um, Next was I had this question during the interview that was like it was common, but like it still shocked me. So the question was really like cope with like how do you cope with pressure? And it wasn't really a hard question to answer for me because I had the experience with it. But it was difficult at that time because I didn't rehearse. I didn't have like an answer to it. But I think though that question was like at least what my boss told me was um what kind of what kind of made her get me in the job, because I was able to answer that because due to my experience in the org as well. So we had clients in the org that that had really tight timelines, and like my answer to that was, um, sometimes I had to micromanage, but I didn't let that micromanagement I didn't let that micromanagement like carry over through the project because I knew it was bad. So what I did was I delegated the work and made sure that I knew what people were going through at the time because we were all doing academics and I couldn't really expect anyone to do everything. So we had a good ending. We had a good outcome of that project, and that's what I told my boss. And I guess another thing that what my boss told me that made me that made her interested to get me as a UX designer in Globe was I expressed like my interest to learn. So you know that those part of interviews that when they ask like, do you have any questions for me? I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions on growth. So like my questions were, what what can I learn from you guys? So what are the enablements that you do? Like, do you have conferences? Do you have workshops? What can I learn from you? What can I learn from my teammates? So um she answered, but like I didn't know that that part of the interview was important because she told me that it was really great that I was willing to learn. Like I showed passion and like I wasn't just there to. I mean, of course, I was there to earn money. Like it's a milestone in life, but I was also there to learn. So that was one thing that I think you should also like people maybe fresh grads or people like transitioning should express during their job interviews because I think employers find value in that and it's not only growth for yourself because it's also growth for the company when like they they see their employers grow. So there.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Kate. I super level with what you said about preparation. I think preparation is really key, and like that should not be overlooked, talaga. And I think that does help. That does help in the interview process. I mean, that's also key learning that I definitely had when I was going through the recruitment process. But I also love that you mentioned, really diving into what the recruiter is asking, what the interviewer is really asking. Like they're going to ask, okay, can you take the pressure? But are there? I guess like how do I say this? Like, what are they really asking? Right? They're not asking us to make cuento or to like, to kind of just brag about ourselves and our skills, but to kind of show and demonstrate a very specific skill set. Like what you mentioned, that during this project, you demonstrated something, no? And I think that is super, super important, super essential. Another thing I wanted to also kind of like, summarize for our viewers that you mentioned is the demonstration of passion as well. And like that one question in the end, do you have any questions for me? Is actually so much more important than a lot of people think. So Ellie, you I think being, a senior designer who does take part in the interview process, like what are your reflections on this? What are your thoughts on Kate's advice?
Yeah, Kate is right. One of the important questions. I also asked that at the end. I asked, do you have questions for me? And I found that's one of the. It's actually also a test for me actually to find out what will they ask. Um, so what kind of questions? So oftentimes people ask um, what they uh, what is it like to work there? What's the culture like? So that's often one of the questions the most commonly asked for me. And I like that question. It shows me the interest level as well. If somebody asks that question, yeah, that those are my thoughts. Right? I just wanted to say earlier about the portfolio thing. Let me jump back quickly to that about portfolios. What people don't realize is we think that portfolio is a one big thing that you have to always show your best foot forward, and it's you spend like 2 weeks to a month just to setting up. So it takes so much from you. You could change the perspective that it is a step by step thing that you're building up. So it's one little thing. You're coding one little thing a day, and it's also a demonstration of instead of something that you need to churn out, it can be something that you are learning from. You are learning how to do this. You're so for me when I'm doing my thing now, even if it's ugly, the point is for me to see how it looks like now and compare it later on. and to show that to your potential employers, this is how I started with, and this is how I am now. So you can tell a story of who you are as a designer as well. So there's a main perspective, the concept of a heavy lift versus a slow burn. So we always think in terms of portfolio is a heavy lift that you always have to build. But in fact, it can be a small burn. It can be all those little designs that you're doing every day, every week, and you start compiling it to one big thing later on, just as you make your presentation. Right. Sorry, just went back to the portfolio thing. But yeah, go ahead. Camille, and
That's
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
guess
sorry.
I could just add.
Go, Cams. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's like really true. It's definitely especially when you say that there's merit to seeing how you're growing as a designer, how it's like here now. Because I remember someone saying na it's actually like if you're actually proud of things that you did like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, then you probably should be stressed because that might mean that you're not really growing as
it's
much,
going.
right? I really agree that there's merit there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that note on self-learning and like what you guys were mentioning just now. No, it's a like ideally the portfolio is a perpetual work in progress. It's something that we're all and we joke about it, right? Oh, the portfolio, yeah, haha, have to update that. But I mean, the nature of the portfolio, I think that's such an interesting perspective, Ellie. Like breaking away from that idea that this is something I have to churn out, but, transforming that this is something I can grow with and learn from. I think that is such a important takeaway. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for bringing us back to that.
Yeah.
Cams, we were just quickly touching up the recruitment process and hiring and what that was like for Kate. But I'm sure we do have listeners who are maybe in your position as well. University students exploring freelancing or just taking on these projects independently. So maybe you can share us a bit about that experience and what that's like. Um, are you with us? I think the
Mhm.
connection.
I think Cam's connection is happy. Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Okay. We'll
We'll
wait for
get
her to
back
come
to
back.
Cam later.
Hopefully net is okay. By the time she gets back. Let's see. Should we hop onto the next topic, or is there anything
Here we
else?
go. There's Cam's.
I'm
There you
here.
are. We got you. We got you.
I'm
You guys, welcome
sorry.
back. Thank you. It's meant to be. It's meant to
Yeah,
be. Did you
it's
hear
meant
the
to be.
question, or do you want me to repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't able to hear the question, so
No worries at all. I was just saying that, Kate gave us a really interesting perspective about the hiring process, the recruitment process, in her job right now. But you, as a freelancer and as a student in university, of course, and taking on projects independently, maybe you can walk us through what that process is like, finding clients. For sure, that would be interesting for some of our listeners.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so I really feel like as a freelancer, I think the most important thing about that, or the most like what you should really strive for, is just really be genuine with the way that you present things, right? I think the most important aspect of it is really being able to let them have that balance of expectations of what you're capable of, but at the same time give them what you can offer. Definitely be true to what your potentials are, what you know, what you have, right? And also at the same time leveling up their expectations as to what it will be like given the circumstance that you're doing this, doing that. So generally, I think that's like the gist of it. I can definitely say more if you're checking out like my YouTube, or if you want to comment it, to chat it to me. So like okay, just a quick intro na lang because Sir Ali sent out the YouTube, show the YouTube there. So what overall, like what I share on my YouTube and actually in like all the social media channels that I have, isn't just UX design, but I also offer like freelancing tips, even project management. Those are things that I try to give as to having it like from being able to be independent as yourself as a young designer too. Yeah. So that's what I can share.
Thanks so much for plugging in your YouTube. I think Ellie's flashing it on the screen right now. So guys, be sure to check out both Cams and Kate's. subscribe. Sorry, going for that whole spiel, no. But sorry, Cams, you were mentioning, that freelance work also, and you mentioned this earlier, is really about building that solid relationship between clients as well, no, and building your network in that way. And I mean, also, I mean, I'm sure all of us have had some freelance experience, but I think we can all agree that the process of really maturing in freelance work, it's a day-to-day thing. I feel like you become better after each project comes in,
That's
no?
true.
Right? Like suddenly now you know how to do an invoice properly. Now you know how to price it, or how to, weigh in the hours. It's really a step-by-step thing. And I feel like anyone who walks into it completely understanding all aspects, I've never heard of something like that. So I think it's awesome that you're sharing that information with other people as well. Anything else you guys want to add to this particular topic, or shall we move on to our final topic of the day?
Go ahead.
Ellie, anything you want to add? Any lasting thoughts? Okay, that's awesome. Um, Okay, so I guess looking at where we are right now, we've been talking a lot about previous experiences, university, UX work right now, where you guys are right now. Maybe you guys can give us a brief overview of the project you're working on, what your day to day is like right now, and yeah, what's that like for you guys?
Okay, so I'm not
Out there. I just threw that out there, and I was like waiting for someone to catch it. Like anyone, can you
I, I'm not really allowed to say much. There's a lot of confidential things at work, but I guess I can share like my struggles right now. Working from home, so
mm,
transitioning from transitioning from office work to working from home was like quite difficult because working from home, like it's kind of hard to find that boundary between home and work. So like 5 p.m. stop, but you don't really notice the time. You don't really notice that, oh, it's already 7. I'm still working. So and there are a lot of distractions at home, like for example, like someone barging in your home, and they don't really understand like the concept of working from home yet. So I think those are one of the struggles. And also, I think working from home helped me actually organize my life better. I think I've had better work ethic working at home. I've utilized like these apps like Notion. I've took digital out to traditional as well. So I write on notebooks now. I slap on post-it notes on my wall just to keep myself on track. Um, and um, I think there's merit to working from home, but I also kind of miss working in the office as well, because I feel like there are conversations that could have been more productive when people are just together. Like you know how in the office, like you can just disturb everyone. Like you can just ask questions, but like when working from home, you always have to be intentional. Are you free at this time? Can we talk? Unlike in the office where you could just go to someone else's cubicle and ask questions. Oh, what do you think of this? But right now you have to schedule those sessions. So I think I've learned how to be mindful of others' time, and yeah, actually it's been challenging. I'm sorry, I digress on this because I can't really talk about like my
No
like
worries.
my projects at work. But it's also I'm still grateful that I have teammates who are very supportive of the situation, and they're very encouraging. Like we always have these like chikahan sessions, chikahan sessions at work. Like we always like after 5 p.m. at work, and I think
Socials.
it's great to have that. Yeah, it's great to have that release from work. Like you just have to take a break from all of it. And actually, I don't do much design things over the weekends anymore because I'd like to focus on not like I don't want to get sick of my work by taking all of the design work to the weekends as well. So I think this is part of the agenda anyway. But I'm also in my YouTube I've also been like recommending or like summarizing all the books that I've read like for last year, and I'm planning to do that quarterly because it's one of my goals to read like 50 books, but but I'm not hopeful that I reach 50. So maybe 30 na lang. But yeah, that's what I've been doing over the weekend. Just reading. There's I read both fiction and nonfiction, but I think I'm enjoying fiction more because it's nice to have that escape to be like be like in a world that's not corporate, that's not design, just completely different one. But there's also like merit to like reading nonfiction books because like I read things on career growth, and what's really interesting for me right now is stoicism. So I'm not really a stoic. I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional person, and like I'm that type of person that just can't keep her feelings to herself. But I learned that it's not that way. Like it's not that way to be like a stoic. Like it's about really um expressing your feelings in a reasonable manner. So I won't say I'm a stoic, but like I picked up some really good life nuggets reading this book. So one I recommend is How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. So I think it's better to start with that. Like unlike what people say, like start with Marcus Aurelius, like start with the hard readings. But I think Massimo Pigliucci he really creates like a good summary or like a good he sections it well like what stoicism really is, and it's a good way to like get away from or like to like avoid the heavier readings. So it's a good starter book. So if you like that one, then maybe you can transition to like the harder ones like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Aristotle. So there. What I'm reading now is Let us Show a Stoic by Seneca. I haven't. I've read like 5 pages of it, so I can't really tell much about it. But I really recommend that, like at least flashing it on the screen. It's available in fully book locally, so it's pretty accessible as well. So there.
Thanks so much for the book recommendation. I also love to read, and I try to document the books that I read as well. Like I post them on Instagram because it's I think that it's one thing to read a book and then to forget about it and just move on to
Yeah,
the next,
same here. I
right?
write a book report. It's sobrang like high school, college, but it really helps to like document everything because
Yes, yes, and to process
yeah.
learning. Yeah, agreed completely. And I also wanted to note what you said about the barrier of the screen is real. It's really real, and I mean a lot of companies and a lot of teams and organizations. I know UXSoc also. I mean that shift to working remotely. A lot of companies have done really awesome jobs at at making that shift and transition. But again, the screen still exists and the barrier is still present. So, I mean, I super understand what you said about, some conversations, the casual interactions that really can drive awesome discussions in the workplace. I mean, we do. I think that is something we all miss. Kate, sorry, Cams, sorry, got confused there. Cams, yes, I mean, just bring the question back. UX work today, what does it look like for you? Your day to day, what's that like? And is there any golden nugget of wisdom that you can leave with our viewers as we come to an end with this stream?
Yeah, okay. So I guess I could really start off with. I mean, as Kate was talking about the online setup being in the pandemic, right? I guess like connected to that, how my pandemic months came out to be was, there was a time when everyone was like trying to really hustle. Like everyone was like, oh, we have so much time in our hands. Like we really have to do that. We have to work. So I think I was also pressured by that. And I felt like the first half of this quarantine has been like really hustle for me. I went with a full time job and a part time one, and while having school, so it was really really crazy for me, to have that. And as much as I mean, I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot as to how to really be part of the team, and really have to finish all these deliverables while also thinking about your schoolwork and everything. But I felt like in the latter part of it, I really felt like I needed to just sit down and really think of where I really want myself to grow, or like where I should be growing, because I felt like I was trying out so many different things. I was working for an agency, but at the same time I was working for a startup, right? And then I was also trying out a corporate internships, stuff like that. So like right now at this moment, me as a UX designer, I've really tried to focus myself on my passion projects and really working projects with people with the my connections as well. So I'm actually in a startup right now called Insta Homes, where we're building kind of a home for homes. And it's really being trying to make real estate more accessible to people around and making the process of um the end-to-end process of real estate easier, quicker with tech. So that's one side of it. And I'm also doing a passion project with a couple of my girl friends as well, which is called Design. So this one naman, it's like Penge, right? Penge Design. So it's generally like asking for designs for people. But the idea of it is really kind of creating a community of Filipino illustrators, Filipino artists, and being able to give people like open source illustrations that represent Filipino culture, not just the Filipino culture of yesterday, but something that's very day to day, something that's very relatable to us as people, talaga, as Filipinos, not just for designers, but this is supposed to be something that people can consume and people can enjoy. So we're actually holding kind of live streams for our artists. We have a set of currently seven beautiful artists with us, including ourselves, naman. And we want to really spotlight their process. It's less about just giving this illustration to people as something that's free, right? But it's more about them actually seeing the process, them being involved, and being able to, we're even conducting polls to be able to know like exactly what people want, what people resonate with when we say Filipino day to day Filipino life. So we're really trying to make it very interactive, and we're trying to be transparent at the same time accountable for the things that we do. And it's a growing. I feel like I'm in a good place right now where being with these having these projects alongside my freelancing projects really helps me to discover more about managing the entirety of the project itself or the whole company itself. And I feel like that's really where long term I really feel like I'd want to be the one to find that direction, right? To really guide people. And overall, I feel like this has helped me because I really enjoy being able to also mentor those that are younger than me. I mean, I know I don't have too much wisdom in my hands, but really being able to offer like how I was, how I moved to where I am now is something that I still offer for people in UX talk for the ones that are just starting out. And I feel like having these projects, being able to balance it all out is something that I really enjoy. Like it's kind of my every weekend I have a couple of calls with different people just to see how their roadmap is going, how like what they want tips for, and just really being able to be there for them and support them along the way. Because that's something that I feel like for me was something that I really want to give back to others because I feel so privileged being able to have that have these mentors with me, have this community with me, and I want to share that to other young designers as well. So yeah, that's my thing.
If you're muted again, Stella.
Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. It's okay. Anyway, I was just saying, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Cams. I think that's an awesome note to finish on. But just wanted to say, as we're no longer students, you're being the only student. Continue to pursue those passion projects because there will come a time when I think a passion project will be a luxury. I think Ellie and Kate can agree with this. So while you have the time on your hands, like go keep
Yeah,
doing that.
learn.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen Design on Instagram maybe or somewhere. So thanks for plugging that in. I'll be sure to check that out. So for our
Yeah.
viewers also be sure to check that out and support. I think that's an amazing advocacy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess with that, Ellie, do you have any other comments? Any other
Yeah.
thoughts?
So
Uh,
just to thank Kate and Cams for joining us, and Stella, thank you for hosting today's
of
chat.
course.
for everyone, we have people who are watching. Then they've been saying hi on chat, especially Kate. Kate, you seem to be very famous. You're
No
getting a lot of
naman.
fans.
They're just
Lodi,
online.
Kate, and Clams, Lodi, go Kate. So you have quite a fan base here. Kate, you're famous. Yeah, thank you for everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's session. Hope to be able to see you again in future sessions if you'd like to become host next time if you want, and collab with some of your YouTube videos as well. And thank you for everyone who's been watching. If you'd like to follow the future episodes on designers, conversations with designers, there is a YouTube channel on designers.com, and it will lead you to this YouTube channel. And thanks everyone for watching. Any last words from everybody? Kate, last words.
Um, if you want to, I guess if anyone wants to like dabble into UX, don't be afraid to reach out to mentors. Um, a lot of times these are free, and a lot of times you don't have to ask them to be there to be your mentor. So you just have to like ask them like things that you're really interested in. So like how did you get into UX? Then let it progress from there, and you'll see like how the magic happens from just asking. So go ahead, ask that mentor to teach you. UX is really for everyone.
Right. Thanks. How about you, Cams? Oh, I
Okay,
think
yeah, I really agree
Cams.
with Kate. Yeah, I got muted. Okay, I really agree with Kate. And I feel like with a lot of the young designers right now, I was able to communicate to. I really feel like imposter syndrome is real, and I understand that. I also experience that as well. Um, but ultimately, for all the young designers, I guess it's just really to begin to be able to be there
Oh,
to just show yourself to be able to communicate with everyone and reach out to mentors if you feel like that's important and have conversations like this. I think being able to break the walls that a lot of the designers are talking about is really a long way go a long way in order to really build your career.
okay. Thanks, Cams. Stella, any last comments?
No, I just want to thank you for having us here. I think I learned a lot from you guys. We're going to be in the UX world together, so I think it's awesome that we get to take part in these conversations. So yeah.
Right. You stick around as we go offline. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. You just watch Conversations with Designers. And thank you very much for watching.